This is one of those things that I find so interesting, I have to drop everything to talk about it. As you know, I finished up my High Guardian Spice reviews, and just recently the creator of High Guardian Spice, Ray Rodriguez, spoke out about why it turned out so badly. And a lot of people are kind of looking at it like, excuses. Not very valid excuses. So let's take a look at their Twitter post, shall we? In this post they say, High Guardian Spice had a very small budget. We were the first show of a non-union studio. Oh, of course, it's just because we weren't unionized, that's why. If you're mad at the animation quality, it was the budget. BG art, background art, budget. Writing, budget. We literally started storyboarding the first episode before the script was finished. Now you see, this is the part that kind of throws me off because this has nothing to do with budget. For example, Spider-Man 3, they were filming while it was still being written. The script was not done and they were already filming it because they had a really sharp deadline, really bad time constraints because they wanted that new Spider-Man movie to be out immediately. However, Spider-Man 3 had a huge budget. It was not limited by any budget, and it still had time constraints that made it so that they were filming as they were still writing it. When we inevitably ran into problems, all productions do, we didn't have time or money to slow down and fix them. We had to barrel forward and make do with what we had. People compare High Guardian Spice to anime because it's on Crunchyroll, but it isn't anime. It's a cartoon made with the same pipeline as any other American cartoon. Now this is particularly throwing me off because does Ray Rodriguez know that anime typically has lower budgets than American cartoons? I mean, sure, there are certain animes out there where they blow a lot of money into it because they know it'll be successful, but the majority of anime, they want it to be made very cheaply because they're more interested in selling the manga than continuing the anime series. Which is why we have so many animes out there that are just season 1s that don't conclude the story because they want you to go buy the manga to actually conclude the story. They're basically like trailers for the manga. Our budget was comparable to a Cartoon Network show, which are usually 11 minutes long, are comedy-centered, and have much simpler backgrounds and characters. I mean, not every Cartoon Network show is 11 minutes long. I guess nowadays we got Teen Titans Go. Is that what they're referring to? Was the budget of High Guardian Spice comparable to Teen Titans Go? I mean, I don't like the animation style of Teen Titans Go, but the production is a lot cleaner than High Guardian Spice, I'll say that much. Really, the best show to compare High Guardian Spice to is Onyx Equinox, our sister show and the only other show made at the same studio as High Guardian Spice. OE had the advantage of learning from mistakes made on High Guardian Spice and being union, but it was a lot of the same team and same pipeline. I don't know if being a union would have helped in any, what, were you gonna protest? Were you going to protest for a higher budget? I don't know what exactly they're getting at with mentioning unions here. What we were trying to make was incredibly ambitious for what we were working with, and we did the best we could. Maybe in another timeline, High Guardian Spice would have gotten the budget and schedule it needed to reach its full potential. And also, in another timeline, maybe High Guardian Spice wouldn't have been roped into the culture wars from its first trailer and marked as bad years before it came out. But alas, this is the timeline we're in, and all I can do is chat about it on Twitter. To be fair, this was the first Crunchyroll original ever announced. If the budget was as low as you claim it to be, and based on your claims, it doesn't sound like the budget was actually that low if you're comparing it to Cartoon Network shows, but if the budget really was super low and it's impossible to make a good show with that low a budget, let's say, then why did Crunchyroll announce this as its first Crunchyroll original? Just from a marketing standpoint, that would have been a terrible decision to show the least budgeted cartoon in production first. Ideally, they would want to show the most budgeted production first. Anyway, let's finish up this Twitter thread. Instead of piling on to the High Guardian Spice's trash campaign, maybe think about what happened behind the scenes to make it that way. Have empathy for the real human beings who did their best working on it, and think critically about who started this hate campaign in the first place. What are you trying to say? Anime fans? Are you trying to say, like, anime fans are bad? Is that what you're concluding with? Just like, think about who started it, huh? All of you weebs out there, you're to blame. And then as you can see, someone else said, what does a low budget have to do with bad writing? To which Ray made a whole other Twitter thread too. Basically, they're like, writers are paid employees, smaller budget equals less time to write, less time to correct notes, less time to plan ahead. Look, if I was given the opportunity to make my own animated show, do you really think that I would ever let it get as bad as High Guardian Spice was just because I didn't have many hours at the workplace to work on it? I would take that shit home with me and work on it because I would actually care about how it turned out. Crazy, I know. But like I said before with the Spider-Man 3 movie, had a huge budget and still had crazy time restraints. Still has way better writing than High Guardian Spice. Having a deadline for your show has very little to do with the budget. Every show needs deadline, and as I recall, wasn't High Guardian Spice late? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but didn't they expect to release High Guardian Spice much sooner than it actually got released? People thought it was canceled for the longest time. Well, anyway, my main point is this is a really bad excuse for bad writing, to blame it on the budget. It's like, well, I wasn't paid enough to write good. What? Someone else is saying one of these things is not like the other. Bad writing isn't a budget issue. Good stories have come from things with literally no budget. That's true. I don't work on commission for writing my comics, and my comics are way better than High Guardian Spice. Maybe it's just because, I don't know, I'm passionate about what I work on and I want it to turn out good. Maybe that's why. I mean, really, if I was given the opportunity to make a show, I would have came into the studio with a script ready. Keep in mind, I reviewed every single episode of High Guardian Spice. The first episode, it was basically filler. It was basically, you don't even have to watch it, you can skip right past it. That's your first mistake right there, making the first episode filler. Next, even if you don't have the entire show written out and planned ahead of time. Maybe you don't have the pilot written, even though most people who pitch a show have the pilot written already. At the very least, you could have had a decent outline. The outline for these episodes and how they connect together is awful. Also, no offense, Ray, but I've read some of your webcomics. Were they just bad because you weren't getting paid to write them? Is that why they were bad, huh? All this being said, I am super curious what the budget actually was for High Guardian Spice, because there are so many YouTube series that I've seen with significantly lower budgets than Cartoon Network shows, and done significantly better. Dude, have you guys ever seen Beast Wars? That show is a visual nightmare. It looks like garbage, it looks awful, but even the writing for that is better than High Guardian Spice. Sure, some people have a budget of $25, but I don't think that that's going to lower your writing talent. I understand that some things can go through editing hell. Sometimes, you know, you're gonna have to change a lot of things, and that can cause your episodes to be inconsistent with one another. And I'm willing to bet there were a bunch of things that were changed during the production of High Guardian Spice. Sure, you can look at the animation, see a bunch of mistakes, and, you know, shrug, think to yourself, oh, maybe I guess they did that because the budget wasn't big enough. Sure, whatever. Bread JPEGs. Slime Boy, you look at that voice actor and you think to yourself, maybe that's not actually a voice actor. Maybe they just got someone in the studio to do that voice because the budget was so low. They had to get someone for free. Sure. Although, granted, Slime Boy was probably the best part of the show. Even given all of that, I still don't think the show should have turned out as bad as it did. Even more so, as the creator, I think maybe you should, take some responsibility for it turning bad? I mean, you were an executive producer along with Margaret Dean of Women in Animation. You had a pretty big role to play in making sure that this turned out good. What I think that it might have actually been is they didn't know how to use their budget, so I'm willing to bet that a lot of the money was wasted just due to poor management. But yeah, as far as the writing goes, the best way they could have fixed these episodes is just by rewriting them from scratch, or just straight up axing some of these episodes that don't really matter. Because like I said, the outline itself of how this plot evolves over the season 1, it's just not good. It's just not a good way of showing a plot going forward. It's hard for the episodes themselves to be good if the foundation itself is not good. But yeah, maybe sure, in a perfect world, your show would have been good. I mean, like I said, me personally, if I had the opportunity to do a show, I would have made sure that it was good. Also, keep in mind that this was pitched twice before finally being accepted through Crunchyroll. I remember reading that it was originally like pitched to Frederator Studios, and I think it was pitched to Crunchyroll before but rejected again, and then when Dean came in to the picture, that's when it was accepted, I think. So you had more time than you're leading on to get a pilot script together, get an outline together for season 1. I mean, I know a bunch of writers out there who have scripts together and who have like episode outlines and ideas for shows that they're trying to pitch. And yet the foundation of High Guardian Spice is so shaky, like you're not really sure what to do with the characters or what to do with the plot. And then you add to that by blaming it on time restraints. Despite the fact that you've been pitching this show for how many years? And you don't think you had enough time to work on it by now? I understand, maybe working with other writers is a whole different experience. Obviously, if you're changing things, that can be a little bit of a fumble. But I don't know, I feel like the best writers out there can land on their feet when it comes to changing things and making it work. I do at least respect that Ray can come out and admit to the world that yes, the show is bad. Unfortunately, they just don't want to take any responsibility for the show being bad. Rather, instead, they're throwing Crunchyroll under the bus, acting as though it was their fault. Say what you want about High Guardian Spice's animation, but I'm still willing to bet that they got a higher budget than X-Arm. But regardless, let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments section, things that I might have forgotten to mention, your own opinions on production and what can actually cause a show to be this bad, what you think about Ray Rodriguez's comments about the show's bad production. Like the video if you did enjoy, of course. And I know some of you were waiting for a follow-up to hear about the O-Girl art contest. I made a post on YouTube, on Twitter, on the original video, on Minds, of course. Like I said, I wanted to drop everything just to make a video about this because I did find it quite intriguing that this is the excuse Ray gave for the show not turning out good. But if you do want to enter that art contest, the winners are going to be announced Valentine's Day, and you can email me your submissions. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye! Hey, you! Tired of reading bad comics? But there are no good comics. No, you're wrong! There's BurningstarComics.net. Original comics made by me and my friends. Stop reading bad comics and start getting to the indies, nerd. Wow! BurningstarComics.net. Check the link in the description. Program restart.